in the high desert in the great American Southwest.
Welcome to Coast AM. John, welcome to the program. It's good to have you with us. You're with us.
Welcome to Coast PM, the number one unofficial Coast to Coast podcast, where I sit down with my brother and talk about Coast to Coast AM. My name is Paul.
Hey, I'm Chris, and I'm the guy that doesn't listen to Coast AM, and I guess believes some of this stuff.
Believes a lot of it. And Chris, I don't know whether or not you're going to believe this one. It's pretty unbelievable what we're talking about today.
Is it inexplicable?
I would call it inexplicable for certain.
Okay, perfect.
For certain. So what we're talking about today, Chris, is the Art Bell 1990s classic Coast to Coast AM episode, Mel's Hole.
Mel's Hole. So this sounds like very dirty to me.
It's a pretty dirty episode, I'll tell you that much. It is about a man who claimed that there was a hole on his lands.
Okay,
so didn't have a bottom.
It's not actually a hole on a man named Mel's body.
No, oh, okay. You went weird with it. No, that's not what it is.
Okay.
I mean, it is in the dirt, right? That's where my
head went. It's a hole in the ground.
It's a hole in the ground.
Okay.
That doesn't have a bottom, or at least not one this guy can find.
But it's not a bottom hole.
No. So this guy called in to Coast to talk about this giant hole, and it is a saga of Mel and his hole that we will be talking about today. Like I said, dude, this is one of the most classic episodes. Like there's
really?
There's a few guests that Art had on that I think really stuck in people's brains. There's a priest that called in about exorcisms that people were really into. There are a couple episodes like with Bob Lazar that people are really into, but Mel's Hole is a classic.
Wow, dude.
Yep.
I can't wait, man. I mean, it doesn't sound like it would be something that would be on Coast to Coast AM, like a hole in the ground. But yeah. I'm sure there are shocking paranormal and conspiratorial things that this hole is doing.
Yeah, there are. It's very strange. And for those Art Bell fans, we will cover Father Malachi Martin at some point, but we're going with Mel's Hole today.
All right.
Chris, as always, before we jump into our main segment to break down, we got to check in with Tim Banal.
Timmy Banal, dude. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm telling you, dude, we're going to have to get this guy a drink at some point.
Like, we have to.
If we go to like a Coast to Coast AM like conference or expo or something, and he's there, gonna have to buy this man a drink.
Oh, 100%. We may just need to reach out to him and be like, what city are you in?
Where are you?
There,
we're coming. Dude, let's get a Tim Banal interview.
Dude, I want a Tim Banal t-shirt to wear during the Tim Banal interview.
There you go.
So and there are conferences we can go to. If you pay like $200, you can have dinner with George Norrie.
Well, dude, you think there's like a media discount?
A media pass? Probably not, because I don't think anyone from the media is talking to George.
Well, aren't we a part of the media?
We'll be the first
podcast media ecosystem.
We are. We got to get badges, press badges.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get one of those fedoras and put a little press piece of paper in it, like the old 1920s gumshoes
with a little notepad. You start running around looking for a scoop.
Yeah, I'm looking for a scoop.
Looking for a scoop. Well, I got a scoop here for you, Chris.
Okay.
Hot off the presses from Tim Banal.
All right. What are we reading about today?
Right. From the Coast to Coast blog, increased number of possible possessions prompt Catholic exorcists to call for help.
Oh, uh-oh.
Oh, spooky.
Spooky.
I'm feeling spooky today.
Yeah, dude. I can't believe there's so many exorcisms going on.
Oh, there's a lot, Chris. So
seeing a real uptick and the number of demons coming up from hell.
It is demon summer, apparently.
So it was hot boy summer last year. It's hot demon summer.
Hot demon,
year.
Fresh out of hell.
Yeah.
So from the article by Tim Banal,
okay.
A worrisome survey of Catholic exorcists found that they feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of potentially possessed people coming to them for help, to the point that they are asking the church to provide them with assistance.
Wow.
The troubling trend reportedly came to light during an annual conference of priests who specialize in the practice of casting demons out of unfortunate individuals, which I will say, that sounds like a fun conference.
That sounds like a fun conference, dude. I bet those priests, they're all drunks, right?
Oh, 100%.
Like 100%.
Yeah, they all have flasks.
Yeah, they're sipping from those flasks most of the time.
I have seen enough exorcism movies that I know that those guys are alcoholics because they've seen some shit, man.
They fought the devil himself.
Yeah, I think it was Father Malachi Martin that said that every time you perform an exorcism, a part of your soul is taken. And that's dark.
That is very dark.
I would drink a little extra whiskey if I was there too.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most common flask substance for priests?
It's got to be regional, right? Like if you're in Ireland,
it's got to be regional.
Scotch.
Yeah, I was gonna say no, definitely Irish whiskey.
Oh, sorry, Irish whiskey, not Scotch. Yeah,
that's Protestant brews.
You're
dude.
right. I'm being a bastard.
Yeah.
All right, so
go ahead.
No, okay, back to the article. Speaking to researchers from the Catholic Church's Educational Institute, Pontifical Anatheum Regina Apostolorum. I don't know how to read Latin.
Yeah, I was going to say that is super Latin.
Yeah, very Latin. The 120 exorcists in attendance at the event raised serious concerns about managing the myriad of possible possessions that they are currently encountering, with some saying they receive a staggering 30 to 50 reports per day.
Wait, each individual priest?
Yes, some of the priests reported that they're getting 30 to 50 exorcism or needs of exorcism reports per day.
My God, man.
It's a lot of possessions.
Demons out of hell just wiling out, dude.
Hot demon summer, man. They just came up.
Summer.
They're ready to party.
Yeah.
So in the face of this monstrous workload, the exorcists called upon the Catholic Church to provide them with additional resources, specifically access to psychologists, in order to determine if an individual is actually possessed or if they are afflicted with a mental illness.
Smart. That's a smart move by these Catholic priests that, hey, maybe these people need mental help.
I'm glad that we're there, though, because I think there was a point in history where that was not the first thing that was thought. So at least these guys are like, let's get the psychologists involved.
Yeah, it was probably up until the 80s.
Probably.
I mean, this is probably a recent phenomenon.
It was like 2005, and they're like, guys, we should probably get a psychologist before we step in.
And I feel like Pope Francis, he can't be a big exorcist guy.
No, he could not be. He does not have that vibe at all.
He's actually very much like an earthly realm pope. I think more so than a lot of Catholics would actually want.
He's grounded. He's grounded.
Yeah. He's talking about climate change, dude. What kind of pope talks about climate change?
Lame.
Talk about exorcisms and demons, dude. That's what I want from my Catholic
way more
popes.
Metal.
Yeah.
I want the metal.
Yeah, give me more metal from my Catholic hierarchy.
Indeed. So one priest who encountered this conundrum recounted how he was forced to independently enlist such a professional when a young woman's parents were divided over what had caused her to attack a group of monks and assail them with insults spoken in Latin. Very demony.
Where do you encounter monks on a regular basis?
Wherever this lady was, apparently, and then she just started hurling Latin insults at them.
This is not in the US. I feel like I've never actually seen a monk like in public. Maybe like at an airport or something. I may have seen one, but I don't think I've ever, like, even going to a Catholic church, going to Catholic school growing up, I don't think I've ever seen a monk.
If I wanted to harass a monk, I don't know how I would do that. I don't know where to find one.
Yeah. Well, a monastery is where you would find one. But again,
I don't know where that is. I guess
where we grew up in Arkansas, there was actually a nunnery or a convent.
Was there
a convent?
Are they called covens?
A nunnery. I think they're called covens, not covens.
Covents with a T.
Covents with a T.
Oh, not a coven.
Yeah,
that's more fun. A coven's a lot more fun.
A coven of nuns.
I've seen The Witch.
Thing. Yeah,
that's fun. All right, so he indicated that it was ultimately determined that the woman was possessed and she was freed from the demonic grip following an arduous 9-hour-long exorcism.
Wow, that's a hell of an exorcism.
It's a long one, man.
Get it? A hell of an exorcism.
I've missed that. I missed that. So beyond feeling as if they were forced to take the burden of helping possibly possessed people by themselves, the exorcists also expressed unhappiness with having to perform the ritual for those who were sick with COVID-19, as it puts their own health at risk.
Well, naturally. Do you think COVID-19 is the reason there's so many more demons coming onto our plane? Do you think it was some kind of like the illness got into us and it opened up some kind of hellish portal?
Do you want the real answer or the fun answer?
Give me both of them. I want both answers.
The fun answer is hell yeah, dude. That's what it is. COVID-19 is causing demon possession.
Anthony Fauci, this is the reason he went to China to start the virus, was to open up a plane into hell, which is why everyone had to catch it, dude.
That's next on OAN. You're gonna hear that conspiracy,
man.
But
man,
no, the real answer is
you heard it here first.
You heard it here first. So the real answer is 100% it's caused by COVID, but more likely because the pandemic has broken everyone's brains. Everyone is like very severely damaged from it.
Yes.
It was scarring for a lot of individuals. So I could very easily see the trauma that we've all kind of incurred together, bringing an increased number of reported possessions, especially amongst people who, are more likely to believe in that kind of thing or do have some sort of mental illness. I think that
and if you were already like mildly mentally ill, this only put like a giant magnifying glass on it, right?
Exactly.
Like, all we've done is just been like, oh, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna isolate you and not allow you to do anything and just be stuck with your thoughts all day. Isn't that a great idea?
Well, and then even outside of that, the stress of living in society is getting worse and worse as people are having more difficulty paying their bills and more difficulty, feeding their kids. And those stressors are triggers for a lot of mental health episodes. So
Bear shelf Biden, right?
Oh my God. Right. Stop. All right. So why exactly are there so many people requesting the practice is very uncertain, right? So the priests don't know why.
I think we just figured it out.
I think we just figured it out for them. We should send them this episode because no shit, this is going to be happening. Though Spanish priests in attendance at the conference indicated that these individuals, quote, have spent time with new age spiritual or meditation groups.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
So apparently meditation groups are the reason that people are getting demon possessed.
Yes.
Which meditation is also a Christian practice. Christians can meditate. I don't know, Jesus meditated.
Well, I've always considered prayer to be a form of meditation, especially Catholic prayer, because you're doing like a rosary 120 times. And so you're saying like Lord's prayers and Hail Marys a whole bunch of times, like in this kind of meditative trance-like position. And so I've always kind of considered that a form of meditation. So I always think it's kind of weird when it sounds like Spanish priests are hating on meditation, because I always kind of felt like it's the same thing.
It basically is. So, but I guess it's meditation, and crystals are bringing demons to this realm. So
now
that's option 2.
Now the crystals, I am skeptical of for sure, dude. It's just like all these people are putting pentagrams on the ground. Why would they be playing with Ouija boards? Why would this be bringing upon hell?
All right, those are very different things. There's people that like crystals.
It's the same.
Those people are not putting down pentagrams and playing with Ouija boards.
And they're like cutting open goats' heads and drinking the blood. Like, why would this bring about demons?
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's
the same thing as crystals. It's the same thing as crystals.
There's zero. I can't see the difference. I can't see the difference.
Crystals, yoga, meditation. It's the same thing as pentagrams, Ouija boards, and goat sacrifice.
Well, at least according to these priests. So by taking their grievances public, one hopes that the exorcists can receive the help they need from the Catholic Church, as after all, they're something of a front line in the battle of good versus evil. Thank you, Tim Banal. that was
very banal.
That
was actually a pretty saucy article, dude.
It was
I really appreciated it.
It was a little bit.
I didn't think the Catholic Church condoned exorcism all that much. So this must not be actually that affiliated with the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Tim made it seem. Right.
It very much may not be, because there is a group of priests outside of the Catholic Church at this point who just keep exorcising people without the authority of the church behind them, which is fun for them.
It's a 5,000-year tradition, dude.
You can't stop
would you
it.
Stop.
And it's so metal. Have you seen the Exorcist movie? Come on.
Yeah, dude. The Exorcist at the beginning is a sweet movie.
So jumping in, Chris, to our segment for today.
Mel's hole in the ground, not on his body.
Yes, Mel's hole, which is an alleged bottomless pit. So the way that this
started.
Going back
to the archive, huh?
Going back to Art Bell, baby. I love him.
Art Bell archive.
Yes. This is a February 1997 episode.
Okay.
All right, so throwing it back to the 90s.
Mel 90s style.
Yeah, Mel Waters was his name. And he sent a fax to Art Bell saying, hey, I live in Ellensburg, Washington. So Washington State.
Yeah.
And he has a big plot of lands. And on that plot of land is a giant hole.
A big old hole.
And he has not been able to find the bottom of that hole.
He's extensively tried to get to the bottom of his giant hole.
He has attempted to get to the bottom of this hole through certain methods, which we'll discuss. He has not been able to find a bottom. He is convinced it's bottomless. So Art
I just want to say real quick, the amount of faxes that Art Bell must have received is already staggering after 2 Art Bell archive episodes for me.
It's mostly faxes, to be honest.
Almost all fax.
Faxes were the main thoroughfare to get to Art Bell back.
I don't even know how to send a fax.
Are there still fax machines? Can you still send a fax?
Ancient technology from 1997.
This is like Egyptians building the pyramids type stuff,
right?
That we're talking about. So this fax machine, somehow Mel sent a message through arcane powers.
Yes.
And Art has him on the show because he's like, I got to talk to this Mel.
Absolutely inexplicable.
It's inexplicable. Well, we're not yet, Chris. We're not there yet.
Oh,
we're going to get there. You haven't even heard it yet. So we're going to start with the basic question.
I was referring to the fax machine was inexplicable.
Oh, that is inexplicable. I agree with that statement. I legitimately don't understand.
All right, I want to hear Mel.
So Art's going to ask the very basic question. How'd you find this? How'd you find this alleged hole? Right?
Yeah.
All right. When did you discover this hole?
Well, the hole has always been there. We've been out there for a couple of years now, and the hole has been there since we've been there. It's been there since the previous owner was there, and the previous owner there was quite elderly, and I'd say he was there for a good 30, 40 years before we moved in.
Wow.
And then
and so there's been a thing of throwing stuff down this hole for a long time.
It's been going on, for as long as the hole has been there, I assume.
So there's this giant hole, and people just keep throwing their junk into it.
People just throw their trash for decades. People have been throwing their trash into this hole.
It's the local dump for him and his neighbors. He's like, yeah, my neighbors just come in. You got a couch, throw it in the hole.
Dude, but to be fair, I would prefer that country folks had a bottomless hole to throw their trash in, because it really is sad when you're hiking and you come upon one of these trash pits and there's literally just like fridges and tires and trash in these like huge sections in the middle of the forest. It is kind of sad. So I would prefer that there were a lot of these bottomless holes that people could throw their trash out in the country.
It would be nice, and then I guess it just gets disintegrated in the mantle. So the thing with that, Chris, though, like if you're throwing a bunch of trash into a hole, right, for decades, probably going to fill up at some point.
You would think.
You would think.
Unless it's bottomless.
We just take all. We take all of our trash, rubbish, anything we have that we have to get rid of. We take it, throw it in the hole. Everyone's throwing their stuff in the hole. I got this thinking one day, how come this hole is not filling up? It must be an awfully deep hole.
That's a good thing to consider, sure, as you throw stuff in it for decades, literally.
Never fills up.
Never. This hole is truly bottomless.
So that is inexplicable, right?
Right.
So I
love that Mel is just like, well, everybody else is throwing their trash in the hole. I guess I'm going to throw my trash into the hole.
I guess I'll just throw it in too.
We just stopped using the local dump. We just, whenever we got trash, throw it in the hole.
Well, and there's probably not a garbage man that comes out to his house. So it makes sense. Like when you're out in the country, you got to throw it in your truck. You got to drive it to the dump.
It's a pain in the butt. It's a pain in the butt. And if you just got a bottomless hole, throw the trash in.
Much easier. So he got to thinking, how do I find the bottom of this pit, right? Like how deep can this possibly go?
Yeah.
So we put together a little science experiment.
Okay.
I used to be well, I would say pretty close to a professional shark fisherman. So I had a couple of huge fishing reels, went out there and started letting the line down. I figure after one...
Did you weight the line?
Oh, yeah. There's in fact, the original line is still down there. I have just been adding to the line and keeping track of how much line I have used.
First, I love that he's a professional shark wrangler. That was this man's job. Was to catch sharks.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Mel sounds like a fascinating human being.
Yeah. I've seen Jaws, man. A shark catcher, terrifying individual. Very interesting, though.
Terrifying. But he does know about black hole. That's a reference to the famous speech given by what was the captain's name? It's escaping me right now, but it's like, you ever seen a shark's eyes? He's got dog's eyes.
I remember that mainly from the Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode, where Charlie does that. Have you ever seen a rat's eyes?
You ever seen a rat's eyes?
Are you doing Jaws right now? So he's got this hole. He puts his fishing line down, and it just keeps going. Yeah. So obviously,
he just keeps on. He's been adding now to it for years, apparently.
Yeah, it just keeps putting it down. It just keeps adding more line, and it's still there right now as he's on the phone. That fishing pole is just hanging out over the hole. He set it up. But before we get to how much line's down there, you got to ask the obvious question, man. You ever heard anything down in that hole?
Ooh.
Have you ever heard anything coming from any sounds or anything?
Well, I mean, the normal thing to do is kind of like yell into it there, to see an echo, and I've never heard an echo come out of that thing.
No echo.
At all. That's one of the first things I noticed about it. As usual, I brought the dogs with me. They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing.
They wouldn't go near the hole.
Yeah. So I'm thinking what Art was kind of thinking about there was, for a while on his show, he was playing this recording that was allegedly tape recorded in a very, very deep mine shaft, like one of the deepest mine shafts ever over in Russia. And it was a recording of people like kind of screaming. So the whole thing was that like we recorded this thing super deep in the earth and we recorded hell. Right. So I think Art was thinking, maybe one, there's a monster, or two, can you actually hear hell from this bottomless pit?
There's tormented screams coming up from this hole, but there's silence.
Exactly. Just
coming
pure
from
silence.
Which, no echoes, nothing.
As a metaphor for death, potentially that is the better option.
That is the better option.
Yeah. And that recording has since been debunked in the internet age.
Right.
So now let's get back to the fishing line, right?
Okay.
How far is this going down? Because right now, all we know there's a pretty deep hole.
It's a deep hole. It's a deep hole. I don't know how much fishing line has this man used up over the years.
We're about to find out.
Well, I'm measuring it by feet. I convert feet to yards, so I don't know how many miles that is. I assume it's a fair number of miles, though.
Well, 5,280 feet is a mile, so you really think you've got 80,000?
Yes, yeah. I get line in 5,000 yard spools, and so I've gone through that many.
Well, you have got a hole then that goes. Well, you can't say to the center of the earth, but you've got a hole that goes miles and miles and miles into the earth.
So he's claiming that it's a 15-mile deep hole.
15 miles? So how does he know that it's just not like all the line isn't just collecting at the bottom of this hole?
So we'll actually get to that with the callers because the callers got a lot of questions. But basically what he says is that it's been dropping straight down into the hole. And he hasn't seen any sign that it's getting caught on anything.
Okay. All right. Because that was my immediate thought. I was like, this dude is just, there's just a giant pile of twine at the bottom of this hole collecting. And he's just like, it just keeps on going. It just keeps on going.
Very perceptive. That is going to be brought up by a lot of the callers.
Okay. All right.
And they will discuss because it's basically the call-ins turn into a bunch of guys like standing around a car, just being like, yeah, well, it could be the carburetor. It's just a bunch of people calling in and being like, well, is it just kind of catching down there? Or, you know, it's pretty fun. So
I love that. Yeah. It's like King of the Hill and the four guys drinking out, just saying, yep.
Yeah, and that's basically what happens with the call-ins. So
I can't wait. That's so exciting.
Yeah. So he does another science experiment, right? Because he wants to know, is there water down there?
Okay.
So like, am I hitting a water table or something like that?
Right.
Which would be smart to know because then you would essentially be polluting your own drinking water potentially if there's water you keep throwing stuff down there. Yes, just full of trash. So he comes up with a pretty ingenious solution that he learned from his shark fishing days.
What I did is I sent down a roll of lifesavers.
Lifesavers?
Yeah, so when it hits the water, the lifesavers will dissolve.
That's true. Oh, I see. So very smart. So
it's an old shark fisherman's trick there. We used to send our bait out on a balloon attached to a roll of lifesavers, and the bait would go out into the ocean on the tide.
Yeah.
And then eventually the lifesavers would melt, and the bait would fall to the bottom.
So he puts a roll of lifesavers on the end of his line and then drops that down as far as he can.
Right.
And then if it comes back up and it's disintegrated, he hit water.
Okay.
Comes back completely dry. So he's like, there's no water down there because the lifesavers are dry.
There.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's not hitting a water table that he can tell.
Right.
So from here, Art does the classic answer to this problem, right? You got to put someone down the hole.
You got to go into the hole.
We got to go into the hole. It's the only answer.
That's the only answer we have. You have to rappel down into this thing.
Yes, clearly that's how we do it.
What we need here is a volunteer. Real, I'm serious. Somebody who would be willing to be lowered into this hole.
Well, I don't. You know, to be honest with you, I don't even know if there's any air down that far.
Which is my favorite answer.
I was gonna say, dude, if it's 15 miles down, this thing would crush you. You would be crushed by the weight of the earth going 15 miles down into the core.
Oh, yeah, that would not
the mantle, I guess. It wouldn't be the core, but good God.
Yeah, you go very far down. Now, what's kind of fun about this being, 1990, well, what did I say, 98? We didn't have drones back then.
Right.
So nowadays you couldn't have this fun of a little conspiracy going on because you'd be like,
just buy a drone down there.
Yeah, just buy a drone, see how far it goes down and see what you see. But here's the situation where it's just some guy, all he's got is fishing line, can't get down to the hole, and there's really no way for him to tell where the bottom is.
Right.
So
and he gets a whole episode of Coast to Coast AM.
Yes, you wouldn't be able to do that anymore, man.
No, you couldn't do that. This is classic 97, dude.
I think we've lost something in the technological age that we aren't able to do things like this.
Yeah, there's an air of mystery. There's an air of grandeur. And I mean, this is a true mystery.
It is. And we're going to add to that mystery because we got a bit of a Pet Cemetery situation for any of the Stephen King fans out there.
Oh, God.
Someone threw their dead animal into this hole.
Okay.
We're going to find out what happens.
This could be an apocryphal story, but one guy claims that he threw his departed canine down into the hole.
Oh, really?
And the story is the guy that did it swears the dog actually came back to him. And he was a hunter. He was a hunter. The story is that he was a hunter, and he was out there hunting, and he saw the same dog. He had the same collar. He had the same little, little metal thing on his collar there. And he said it was the same dog. And he says he knew he threw the dog into the hole.
Dog came back.
Dog came back.
Dog came back.
Oh, my God, dude. It is a Pet Cemetery.
It's Pet Cemetery.
Dude, Stephen King, I think Dude, when was Pet Sematary written,
So
man?
I looked this up. Pet Sematary was written in the early 80s. It was 1983.
Okay. So it was much before this.
It was about 15 years prior to this call that Pet Sematary was written. For those who haven't read or watched Pet Sematary is about a man who buries his child's cats in an old pet cemetery that was built on Native American burial grounds. And the cat comes back and it's really mean.
And then hijinks ensue.
And you know what? Here's where I'm kind of starting to get critical as I'm listening to this, right? Because then he brings up Native American land. And I'm like, did you just read Pet Sematary? And you're like, let's do that. Let's do that.
I got a big hole in the grounds. Let's just do a Pet Sematary thing.
You know, as you can well imagine, this is all Native American land around here. And so one of the lines of inquiries I'd like to make is, is there anything about this hole in regards to the Native Americans? That's something I haven't really pursued right now. But
so he's working on it. It's a theory.
Yeah, if this is a very old hole, there has to be some Native American legends around it.
Mm-hmm. You would think so. Because I also have a hard time imagining that a giant bottomless hole just pops up. It would have to be some sort of formation, right?
It could be like a sinkhole or something.
Yeah, but even sinkholes are never that deep.
I haven't studied sinkholes extensively, so I can't say.
The only explanation is the paranormal, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and if you're throwing animals down, they come back, then yeah, that's pretty paranormal.
What an interesting human being who's like, you know what I'm going to do with my dead dog? I'm going to go throw it into that big hole.
I am wondering about that because, that's an interesting story, but what is wrong with the person who's like, I'm throwing my dog in the hole?
I'm throwing my dog in the hole.
And granted, it is a dead dog, but I'm like that. You bury your dog. Did you not love your dog?
You bury your dog or you give it to your vet to cremate or something.
Yeah, you do something.
You don't throw it into a giant hole on somebody else's land.
Yeah, your neighbor sounds like a really bad person if he's bringing his dead animal and throwing it in your property.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
It's inexplicable.
That is, that the behavior of that man is the most inexplicable thing about this story.
Dude, you probably get you get a strange breed in Washington State, I imagine. Especially the further you get away from the coast.
You do. And when, Mel's like, this could be apocryphal. He's pretending like he's not putting that much stock into it. But his tune changes a little bit when he says that he's made plans for him to be thrown down into the hole.
If you had a fatal disease, Mel, would you jump in the hole?
I would.
You would?
It is in my will.
What?
Should I meet my demise,
that you would be thrown in the hole?
Disposed of into the well.
I'm not sure the health department would allow that.
That's too good, dude. I love that he explicitly put it into the will, dude.
And I also loved Art's response of like, I don't think the health department's going to let things fly.
I don't know if they're going to let you do that, man.
Well, and then Mel kind of tries to argue with him for a second about it. And then he's like, no, you can't just throw a dead body into a hole, even if it is on your land. But he's like, it's my land. I can do what I want.
It's my land. It's my will. I can do whatever I want. This is America.
Yeah. And that's when he goes back to the water table. Like, there is a water table below your lands. You would be polluting the water that people are drinking, right?
I believe they call it an aquifer.
Yes. So we're going to get to some of the callers, Chris.
Okay.
And number one, we got a guy calling in with a lot of hole stats. Guy knows his holes.
This guy knows his holes. All
he
right,
says,
I'm about to be schooled.
My boy Art's talking holes. I got the data.
I'm listening at 2 a.m. in the morning. I finally get to use my expertise in something I care about.
This is my moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to this. Very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I just wanted to let you know, I looked up an encyclopedia, and the Marianas Trench, which is the deepest hole we know about.
That's in the ocean, right?
Right. It's 36,000 feet deep.
So this is, certainly over double that already.
Right. And it also says, under mining, that with current technology, we can only go down about 1,600 feet.
Wow.
Wow. That's great. That is great.
So you've got something here that already qualifies for Guinness.
That is wonderful.
So with current technology,
I like the guys trying to debunk Mel, and Mel's like, no, this is great information. I can't believe my hole is like 60 times deeper than anything human made.
Yeah, so human made 1,600 feet. He's claiming 80,000 feet.
Right.
Which is insane. And yeah, he's just taking it as like, oh, wow, that means that this is a really impressive hole.
This is real.
My hole is awesome.
I have a great hole.
Number one hole in the world, deeper than the Marianas Trench, man.
Yeah. Like almost 3 times bigger.
Yeah. And Art's going forward too. He's like, that is a Guinness hole right there, buddy.
Yeah, you got a giant hole, Mel.
We got a good hole going on.
You got such a big hole, Mel.
And, you know, Art, once again, comes right back to it. We got to put someone down this hole.
Yeah, we got to put somebody in the hole.
Why is no one in this hole yet?
Why haven't you sent anyone down this hole?
Jeez.
But I want to know, inquiring minds want to know, I would think even if we just had somebody lowered past the 1,600-foot mark to see what's down there.
That would be cool, but it wouldn't be me.
So Mel's not down.
Yeah. Mel's like, no, only my dead body is going down this hole. And a live Mel does not go down this hole.
Does not down unless he's dying, I think. Or actually, probably not if he's dying, just when he's dead is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So
no, it's post-death. He goes down this hole.
All right. So obviously Art keeps coming back to, we got to send someone down this, right, Chris?
We got to send somebody down into this hole.
We have to send someone down, and someone calls in and says, you know what? I'm down. I volunteer as tribute.
I'm the guy that's going to go down into this hole.
Put me in, coach, is what this caller's about to say.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you would like somebody to be lowered down into the hole.
That's right.
I would be willing to do that.
See, there you go, sir, a volunteer.
We've got a volunteer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously under certain conditions.
Like what?
Just a cage, for one.
A cage?
Yeah, just in the event that there's some kind of weird subterranean thing eating all of this garbage down there. Obviously, I would want to be in some kind of a cage.
Well, what makes you think, though, that anything that could gobble up, say, a refrigerator...
wouldn't get the cage? Well, I would have, obviously, a very powerful light, and I'd be able to see it at some point before it's too late.
So we'd have radio contact with you, and we could hear you scream at least.
Yeah.
Dude, Art really was a class act, dude.
He's pretty funny.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I think that's the best thing about Art is that he really just plays along with it. It doesn't really matter if it's real or not. He's just having fun.
Yeah, he's just like, well, dude, what about the giant monster? You don't think the giant monster could eat your cage?
Come on, you moron.
Well, we would hear your screams through the radio.
Yeah. And they stay on the monster for a bit, and then the guy's like, well, then I'll just have like an up button. And it'll be a really fast up button. And then if I see a monster, I just click up and then I'll escape.
Right. Yeah. So they just go down a monster rabbit hole for a couple of minutes.
Yeah. So it has escalated a bit because we started out with, I have a hole that I don't think has a bottom. And we are now at the point where there is potential paranormal activity around dead creatures coming back and potential monsters. So
trash eating monsters.
It's kind of like a Star Wars Episode 4 situation where they get caught in the trash.
Oh yeah, the trash compactor.
Yeah,
monster.
The trash compactor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what might be down there.
Right.
You got to be careful for trash monsters in giant holes.
That's I remember reading that somewhere.
Yeah, kind of like a Gorlak pit situation, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So we got a giant hole in this man's yard. They're throwing trash in it. They're throwing dead dogs into it. Nobody's been down there. We got to volunteer. What else could we possibly know about this hole?
Well, Mel has a theory about this hole.
Okay.
Because he's been thinking a lot about the pyramids. And the stars.
He's just pulling everything into this hole. Huh?
And he's like, let's build this story. Let's build this canon as we go. Because maybe it's got something to do with pyramids. We don't know.
It's possible.
It's possible.
It's possible. All right, go.
You know, when I was out there this evening, it's kind of a sort of a full moon out there, and one of the things that occurred to me is maybe this has some sort of astronomical type thing.
What do you mean, Mel?
Well, you know, it's like, you know, how the various pyramids and things in Egypt, you know, are supposed to be lined up on various star systems or whatever.
Well, was it a thing like where the moonlight was shining into the hole?
Well, no, but I just, happened to notice, the full moon, and all of a sudden it just sort of put two and two together there, you know.
You've never felt drawn to the hole personally, have you? I mean, in terms of,
you mean in terms of some sort of spiritual involvement, or
no, suicide? No, suicide.
No. I mean, I keep the lid on it there because it's an attractive nuisance.
So maybe it's got something to do with the moon.
I love that he's like, I'm talking to you right now, and I'm looking at the moon, and I'm thinking, what if the moon is the hole, and Egypt, and the Egyptians and the pyramids, and so I'm thinking it's all connected somehow. I love that he just looked at the moon and started putting all this together while he's talking to Art. I mean,
because he literally says, I thought of this today when I looked up at the full moon.
Yeah.
What if it's got something to do with that? And Art's like, what would it have to do with that?
Yeah. I love it, dude. I mean, true crank style, dude.
That's the most
style.
You're getting live crank logic, you know? It's like, think this through with me. Yeah. It makes zero sense because the pyramids at least are like aligned to true north, as we learned on our Graham Hancock episode.
Yeah,
this is just a circular hole.
Yeah, this is just
what would that have to do with anything?
Well, I'm looking at the moon right now, and I'm thinking moon, hole, pyramids, Egypt, Orion's belt. This is all making sense to me.
Are you following? Or should I talk slower?
Art's just like, dude, listen, I talked to a lot of crazy people. You lost me.
Well, this is a little wackadoo. So after that, we get into a bit of a problem. Mel might actually be doing some serious polluting down this hole. That could be a bit of a concern.
He's pouring his motor oil down into this hole.
Dude, you joke. It's that bad.
Hear it going down, probably bouncing off the walls or something, but you never hear a splash.
You never hear a splash. I've even taken like old television tubes, the picture tubes, and
you dropped picture tubes down there?
Yeah, I've dropped. I hate to say this here, but I've dropped more than one of them down there, and I've never heard it implode or anything. Nothing.
EPA, you probably shouldn't say that on the air.
Well,
they'll come and get you for that. I mean, TV tubes.
So I had to look this up because I was like, what is a TV tube?
Yeah, there's like serious gases, like noble gases in those TV tubes, right?
Yeah, and toxic metals. There's like a lead and a bunch of stuff like that. Like you have to properly, it's actually a huge issue today because we have all these old TVs and you can't put them in the dump because it has toxic gases, toxic metals in them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm just throwing them below ground. Which, once again,
just toss them into the hole.
Once again, people's drinking water is below ground. You can't throw lead down there.
We're gonna start hearing like about all these crazy like cancers and stuff happening in Washington around Mel's hole, and it's just like, well, we know the reason why.
Yeah,
this guy was just throwing radioactive trash into a hole in his backyard.
Yeah, this one like douchebag was poisoning the entire community.
The whole town, dude.
Well, if I drop this, I wonder if I hear a crash.
It's an Aaron Brockovich situation.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, can't say that on the air, man. Cannot say that on the air.
Yeah, dude, you just told on yourself to the. Listen, I don't think that the federal government listens to Coast AM all that much, to be honest.
I don't think they do, but it would be funny if they did. Which at the end we will find out if the feds were listening.
Oh, we will?
We will get to that. That was serendipitous of you to say, Chris.
Okay.
So next up, we've been teasing monsters. So we're going to kind of go down that train, right? Like most Coast to Coast, the callers kind of get on a theme.
They get on a theme and they cannot get off that hamster wheel.
Yeah, and we are on the hamster wheel of there is a monster in your hole.
Okay. I do have a question for Mel. You're a fisherman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever felt a tug on the line? And if you did, what would you do?
Well, I don't have a hook on it. There's just a large, there's a 1 pound weight.
Yeah, but she's saying if something obviously was pulling on that line.
What would I do?
Yeah.
What you do?
I'd run.
Yeah.
Just in case. You got to bail.
You got to bail.
She's teasing a little bit, but we all know what she's thinking. There's a monster down there.
There's a monster down there.
And
it's going to start tugging on that line soon enough.
And to call back to the Reptoids episode, Chris, could be a Reptoid in the Hall of Earth.
Could be a Reptoid. Though, dude, for some reason, for whatever reason, I'm thinking more of like a kaiju down this hole, like a giant monster, like a giant under earth monster.
That would be interesting.
Why that was the monster in my head, but I think it could be the Reptoids. I mean, we'll have to send another email to John Rhodes and ask him, do you think there's Reptoids living in Mel's hole?
I have emailed John Rhodes multiple times. He has not gotten back.
He hasn't gotten back to us yet.
I've sent him 3 emails.
Oh my! Listen, John, just answer our emails, man.
It's every time I email him, and I'm like, this one's gonna get him, and he has not responded once.
John, we put your name in our email title. We know you found it. Listen to or respond to our emails.
Well, and I'm not even being facetious. I actually have questions about his lore, and I want them clarified.
That's right.
It's upsetting. So, Chris, back to your first question, the thing you asked immediately about the fishing line. What if it's just spooling up down there at the bottom?
It's just going around in circles now, and this dude literally has miles upon miles of twine in this hole.
Yeah, so we have a caller who finally calls in and asks this quite deductive question.
Okay.
Well, I was wondering about how much does 15 miles of fishing line weigh?
I have no idea. I'm just letting that sucker go down. I have not reeled
What if
it
you've
in.
already hit the bottom and you got a pound of fishing line on it?
That's right.
Letting it down.
Yeah, I
already
should
hit the bottom.
I should weigh one of those spools because I'm getting them in 5,000 yard spools.
So in other words, it could have hit bottom some time ago, and simply the pure weight of the line.
Right.
So the idea being that you've had so much line on it that the line itself carries weight, which is going to weigh down the rest of the line.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's just spooling up.
Yeah, it's just there. He just has a giant. This thing is maybe 25, 30 feet deep, and he just has a gigantic pile of line down there just spooling.
Because that is an option for this, right? One of the theories about what Mel's hole actually was just a mine shaft, and it just kind of inspired this guy to call in and maybe he did put some line down, and it was just spooling up.
You used the was as a verb. We know what Mel's hole is now, don't we?
No, we have no idea.
What?
It's an urban legend now.
You didn't look up to see if anybody's done anything with Mel's hole?
People have attempted to find it. No one's ever been able to find it.
And Mel probably won't give the geolocation of it.
He will not tell where he is.
Okay.
He's in Ellensburg, Washington. There is a mine shaft on someone's land in Ellensburg, Washington that potentially could have inspired this.
Okay.
But it's definitely not Bottomless, and it's very clear it's not Bottomless. The other thing is that there's no one named Mel Waters that lived in Ellensburg, Washington at this time.
What?
Yeah.
So is this dude completely making this up?
There is a very strong possibility that every bit of this is completely made up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, I was going to say, being a shark fisherman sounds like a fake job.
Does sound pretty fake. This guy just watched too many movies. He watched the Pet Sematary movie, which came out pretty recently at this time, and he watched Jaws, and he just combined them.
And yeah, he's just like, 5,000-yard spools of shark twine. Like, yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. No one's ever been able to find it. They have not been able to find Mel. He's called in multiple times. There's about 3 episodes of Mel. At one point, he moves to Australia.
He had to get away from the hole.
He had to get away from the hole. It seemed like there was some sort of radiation that he was claiming was hitting him, and it was making him ill. So he moved away from the hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
So that's just a little backstory.
I feel dirty, dude.
Yeah.
I feel absolutely dirty.
So there are alternative theories, though, that we will get to as to why no one's found the hole yet.
Okay.
But classic skeptic thinking, which, hate them, say that it's just a guy that called in and it's all made up. One of the big things, too, is that he claims that the people of Ellensburg and definitely his direct neighbors all know about the bottomless hole. There were a lot of inquiries into the region after this broadcast, and no one was able to find anyone who knew anything about a bottomless hole.
Nobody knew Mel's hole.
No one knew Mel's hole. No one knew Mel. And checking tax records, there was no Mel Waters.
There was no Mel. This is all freaking me out, dude.
We're not even to the weirdest part yet.
Okay.
All right. So number one question, right? Because we're going to ground this, right? You got all this line. You're claiming it's going 80,000 feet deep. Line can only carry so much tension.
Right.
The line itself has weight.
Right.
Why isn't this sucker snapped yet?
Yeah.
I'm using 20 pound. I
20
couldn't
pounds.
afford
Do
to
you
go
think
much
you have
higher.
20 pounds of line on it already?
Pardon me?
Do you think you have 20 pounds of line in the hole already?
I'm sure there's more line than that.
It would break by then.
We're talking how many
there must be a lot of
I have
tension.
about 20 spools
A lot
of
of
line.
tension on that.
Yeah.
20 spools of line on there.
Wow.
And it's still hanging on there.
At which point it should snap, based on what he's saying.
Well, and that just goes to our theory that it's just down the bottom, just spooling up. If this even exists at all in the first place.
If it's even there, if any of this is even happening.
If he's even done this experiment, dude.
Which he may not have. He could have just called in and be like, this is a funny story.
This is a funny story. I'm a shark fisherman that has an endless hole in his backyard.
Yeah. So back to putting people down there, because we cannot escape this idea.
No, art is totally into having somebody go down this hole.
Yeah. And he starts bringing up Geraldo Rivera as someone to put down. So he's going to go a bit into TV personalities here.
Yeah.
Mel, I say that we got to put a person down there, a volunteer.
Not a cat.
No, not
No
a cat. No cats. But a person, maybe like a media person. One of these anchors from maybe one of the Seattle Como stations or something. Lower them down.
Oh, boy.
So, and then he goes on to be like, we should get Geraldo Rivera to do a special at your
about
hole.
Mel's hole.
And you want to know why I'm further not believing Mel? Mel says no.
He says, no, I don't want Geraldo Rivera. I watched the Jimmy Hoffa special. He opens up the underground bunker. Nobody.
Nobody. Didn't he also do like King Tut as well? And it was a big nothing burger.
I don't know about that one.
I think he's done a couple. It was one in Egypt that he did that there was like nothing inside of the tomb.
They sent Geraldo to Egypt.
I think it was Geraldo. I don't think I'm making that up. I'll fact check myself. I'll report back.
Yeah, report back on that one. I was gonna say we may need to do an episode about that.
Yeah, I think there was a I love the 80s episode or something where that happened. So that's gonna pretty much wrap up Mel's whole story, right?
Right.
But there's one more bit that I wanted to share with you.
Okay.
And this is from the next episode of Coast to Coast AM.
All right.
Where Mel comes on.
The very next episode of Coast to Coast AM. Maybe not very next, but soon after.
It was like within a week, I believe. And Art might actually mention it in this clip how long ago, but it was very soon after Mel's hole occurred. He got another fax from Mel that he read on the air. So this is a separate episode now that we're going to pull this clip from.
Mel's hole part 2. I get the following fax earlier today, Art. You're receiving this fax simultaneously with a fax I attempted to send you earlier today. Much has developed since the first fax. I'll try to explain as rationally as possible what has transpired since my earlier fax. Around 1 p.m., I drove to Yakima to shop at the Costco there. On my way back, I decided to stop at the property. When I got there, my access road was blocked by military personnel that were armed. I noticed that several pieces of yellow gear had entered and exited my property based on the direction of their tread. I asked one of the guards, "What's going on?" He said there was a plane crash on the property. I said, "Well, that's strange." I told him there's no smoke. I don't see any in the distance. He asked who I was, and I let him know I own the property. I then asked to talk to the officer in charge. A non-uniformed man came up to my Suburban and let me know that I won't have access to my property until the crash has been completely investigated. I mentioned the yellow gear and the lack of smoke, and that they were on my property. I was told by this man that it's not necessarily my property, and that it would be very easy to find a drug lab on my property. Well, I got the drift.
Oh my gosh, dude. This is the Men in Black, right?
It's definitely the Men in Black. And to answer your question, do the feds listen to Coast AM? Apparently they do.
100%. Well, you know, I was thinking about it after I said it, because I remember the scene in Men in Black, the Tommy Lee Jones, Will Smith movie, where Tommy Lee Jones goes to the newsstand and picks up all the like National Enquirers and all the like Paranormal Bat Boy newspapers and starts going through them and reading them. So like, if there was a Men in Black, they would almost assuredly listen to Coast AM.
Yeah, because you're going to get a lot of quacks, but if, you know, 5% of it's real,
right,
got your hot lead.
And look, now the Men in Black are going to Mel's Hole to go check it out. Oh my gosh, dude. What if these are like the UFO holes that John Rhodes was talking about?
Well, Chris, there's a last part to this fax that we have not played yet.
Okay. Oh man.
Oh, I talked to one of my neighbors earlier today, and he told me something very interesting. He said that some time ago, he was driving up to the hole at night and thought he saw the most bizarre thing. He said he saw a beam of solid black coming out of the then uncovered hole. I said, "What do you mean?" He said he saw something blacker than black coming out of the hole, like a searchlight reaching into the sky as far as he could see. So there you have it. There actually is more.
Something was down there and was shooting up a black beam.
Oh my gosh, dude. He had this hole in his backyard and somehow tied together about 6 or 7 different paranormal conspiratorial theories into this one hole. What a genius.
It's a master class.
Yeah.
And because he started with something so simple, which is there's a hole in my backyard.
Yes.
And I don't know if it has a bottom.
Right.
And then he builds it into this narrative, and the listeners themselves help build the narrative as well.
Right.
And by the end of it, you know, after he's done, he emails them and then makes it even crazier. Like the feds have come and they've taken over my property and I can't get to the hole.
And now there's an inexplicable beam coming out of the hole,
which is one of the theories as to why this hole can't be found, is because the feds have put some sort of sight on top of it and you can't actually get to the hole anymore. Yeah.
Right.
So go and try and find this hole. You're not going to find it.
You're
it's
not
already
going to
there.
find it because it's protected by the secret organizations within the federal government.
Exactly. Now, Chris, the skeptical view of this. Number one, local news reporters went out and investigated these claims after this broadcast occurred, and that was where they found that there was no Mel Waters living anywhere inside the county. Right.
Okay. Back when local journalists did real work.
Back when local journalists existed, I think.
Back when they were hitting the pavement, finding the facts.
Well, shoe leather reporting. Shoe leather reporting, baby.
Yes, dude. So, I love it, dude.
They also couldn't find anyone that knew anything about it. And then in speaking with the Department of Natural Resources, apparently a hole like this is technically geologically impossible because it would collapse in on itself from the sheer force.
Right.
There's a reason why you can't build a hole that deep. It's because you can't keep it open.
Yeah, right. Well,
Now,
but that's what the government wants you to think, dude.
That is what the government wants you to think. So the only evidence that has ever existed of Mel's hole being real are these broadcasts.
Really?
Yeah, there's nothing else out there.
Art never convinced Mel to go out and put somebody down this hole.
No one ever went down the hole. I believe the way that the story ends is that Mel moves to Australia and they essentially gets kicked off his land by the government. So
right.
There are two more broadcasts with Art where Mel comes on. I think the last one was in like 2002.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a saga, a trilogy.
Man, I thought we were going to have a little wrap up on this, dude, but it's still floating out there in the mysterious ether, huh?
I left you on a bit of a cliffhanger there.
Yeah, dude, you really did. You really
I
did.
thought that was a great way of ending. I didn't want to leave it just like wrapping it up. I want to leave it on
dude,
the military took the hole.
Yeah. They took the hole, dude.
Yeah.
Mel Waters was about to find those reptoids that John Rhodes was warning us about.
He was so close to it. If only he had gone down. Maybe, you know what he should have done? Put a little note on the end of the string.
Yeah.
And then see if someone writes back.
Yeah. That's you go.
Move.
That would have been smart.
That would have been a fun one.
Send a fax.
However those work.
I would think you could say bottom of hole, send fax.
You know,
that's how that works, right?
As far as I know, that is how a fax could possibly work.
That's how that works. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, Paul. What a fascinating, you know, you tell me before we start recording what we're going to talk about. You don't give me a lot of the facts and a lot of the data. You know, Jason the horse, I was like, a guy who thinks he's a horse that can't be any good. Harlot the witch, some woman who thinks she's a satanic witch. I'm a little interested, but maybe it's not that good. Mel's hole. Some guy has a hole that he can't find the bottom to. And I'm always like, this can't be any good. And it ends up being so incredible.
It never disappoints.
It never disappoints because these people are truly fascinating.
It's so interesting. The thing that makes me really happy too is just the people calling in who are just so intrigued and like want to take part in the story. And I think that's something that Art Bell always knew. And he talked about this as well, as he's like, I'm not news, I'm entertainment.
Right.
And I found this very entertaining.
Though, to be fair, in our modern era, dude, they aren't, newscasters aren't news either. They're entertainment. They literally took a note from Art Bell and George Norrie. They said, people don't want to know facts. They want to be entertained.
That's a conversation for another time.
Oh, okay.
That's a different rabbit hole. That's a different Mel's hole to go down.
You're going to have to give me one of those Hollywood conspiracies soon because I'll be able to tie it in through there.
I'll see if I can find a good one for you. Yeah. So, Chris, on a scale of 1 to 5 bottomless pits, what do you give Mel's hole?
I think I'm only going to give him a 2 pits on this one. I'm starting to suspect that there was never actually a hole and this guy completely made it all up.
I agree with you. I'm going to give him 4 bottomless pits, not because I think it's real, because I loved his narrative arc.
Yeah. I mean,
slow burn.
We were talking about in one of the last episodes, it's a yes and situation.
Yeah.
And Mel, when you have a bottomless hole, you can literally yes and until you die and get thrown into the hole.
And just the whole thing where he didn't say anything about the government being aware of it. He does mention the episode that he told a university about it, but they didn't believe him. And then he faxes Art a few days later and says the feds were here.
Yeah.
And that is like, whoo, that's plot twist.
Yeah.
Plot twist. I just appreciate the work he did. So I'm gonna give him a couple points for that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, dude, we have Homers and Virgils amongst us everywhere.
Yes,
we only have to look for them.
You just got to look. Well, that has been the story of Mel's Hole from the Art Bell Archives. We really appreciate you listening, and be on the lookout for bottomless pits in your backyard, because I guess they can just pop up. This has been Coast to Coast PM. Have a great rest of your day.
Later.